Welcome to WBQP TV 12 and Praise TV. I'm your host for this special edition. I'm Robin Richard. And undoubtedly, you have heard of Catherine Dunham Dance Studio. You've heard of Alvin Ailey Dance Troupe. You've heard of the Nicholas Brothers, the Mills Brothers. You've heard of Judith Jameson. Locally, you may have heard of Josephine K. Newton. You've heard of Eleanor Johnson. You've heard of Fern Gillibo. Um, so many amazing dancers here. Gail Johnson, Naila Blackspear, so many amazing dancers and choreographers here. And then I know that you've heard of Thomas Dorsey, the great gospel composer, Mahalia Jackson. Well, what if all of those were combined? That's what you get in that great tradition of dance, modern dance, interpretive dance, jazz, ballet dance, the Dance Theater of Harlem. That's what you get combined with Thomas Dorsey and Mahalia Jackson. You get the spirit in so many different ways. And I'm so excited that our special guest is going to bring you another production. My special guest is a creative artist. She is a choreographer. She's a dancer. She's a singer, amazing singer. So please welcome Fallon Earlington with Soulful Movement. Yay!
Thank you for having me on.
That's all the millions of people that are cheering right now going, who is it? Who is this? I am so excited. I've had the pleasure of working with you. First, I had the pleasure of seeing you. I'm honored to know your mother, Jackie, who's another amazing spirit and another amazing human being. And so I've seen you in this region. It's certainly in Pensacola, but in this region, dancing and performing and really elevating dance. And so I'm so excited that you're here. We've had the chance to work together on the Tina Turner tribute. You really brought that to life. And so I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So, hey, Fallon.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on the show.
Yeah, this is great. I'm a fan. So if I sound like I'm fangirling, just excuse me. So let's sort of set the stage of talking about what's going to happen on this weekend, Saturday. It's a free performance that you're going to do. So give me the details on that, and then we will come back and talk about your journey to this and what inspired this special Black History Month.
Yes.
Performance.
I mean, you know, Black History is always something that I grab hold to. Black History, Juneteenth. That's just something that I love. I love how you put me in the category of everything because I just love honoring our ancestors. So Black history is something that's dear to my heart. I feel like it's not talked about enough, our journey, our struggle that we had to go through. So basically the concert on Saturday is basically celebrating our ancestors. But it's going to hit a sensitive period that we don't like to talk about, which is transatlantic slave trade and slavery era. And it's going to talk about Underground Railroad, but we're not going to hit all the key points that most people do. We're going to hit the points that are kind of sensitive towards, sensitive subjects and stuff like that, but stuff that's not talked about that needs to be talked about, and a movement form of a way, it's going to be nice. It's going to be a storyline to each thing that we're doing. And not only that, we don't just have dancers. We have some of the dancers' grandparents. We have elders this time. So we have volunteers from Readers and Writers Inc. We have volunteers from 100 Black Women. They've teamed up to sponsor with us. So this is going to be a generational breakthrough for everybody. I say a generational celebration because we've got babies doing spoken word, we've got the elders doing spoken word, and they're also dancing. And then we have Soulful Movement. Of course, we're doing special pieces that'll be portraying sensitive times in our histories, such as transatlantic slave trade, Underground Railroad, things like that. I'm
Well, let's
excited.
stop, Smiling. Let me stop you and talk about that, because that just brings this really vivid visual memory to me in terms of how how I've seen you choreograph these movements, and then to think about that transatlantic slave and the Underground Railroad. But those two things were literally, people were being moved. And as I think about the transatlantic slave trade, of course, that was movement over the water. So you got people being moved and rocked and rolled, and then the water, and of course the Underground Railroad. Most people were going by foot. If you were lucky, by a wagon or by a horse,
Mhm.
or maybe even by train if you were really lucky to have that
Yes,
sort of
absolutely.
movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk. We're not going to talk. We're going to showcase this in movement. And the choreography. I am very. I have to say this is one of the shows I'm most proud of about, because I really took my musical theater experience to the max here, and I wanted to really teach as I was dancing the dancers, because I was so surprised on the lack of knowledge that our children had on the experiences that the African American people have been through, and it's something not to be ashamed of, something to be proud of. So we also taught, like, what is the transatlantic slave trade? This is what happened. This is why this is important. And then when we were showcasing the moves, when I was showcasing moves, I was telling them this is why this is important. So we're actually going to act out some of these parts of the production. Will be, I call it production, but the choreography will be like a production of the struggles that African Americans had to go through during this time. During that time, I'm sorry, but just to piggyback on what you were saying, um, what I wanted to do is I wanted to teach what is not being taught in school through movement. And I wanted to also tap into the Negro spirituals, because those songs were they're still important to this day. And there's still the double entendre meanings that's behind the songs are still important to this day. And
You're
I think,
talking about the signal songs that they used on the Underground Railroad, but then
yes,
even as they were coming along the transatlantic, so even as they were coming from the continent to the Caribbean and to so many different places in North America, South America, and North America, that there was still this drum beat that was said to have carried them over the ways that would give them
I'm
hope
so
for
glad you mentioned
for
that.
life, and when
Yeah,
they, or to make their choice to end their lives, because that was a drumbeat as well, that they made that
mhm.
choice. A lot of them made their choice to end their life and to not be um, pawns in the slave trade.
Definitely, definitely. And it was our ancestors had such that they had such pride. Even when they were slaves, they still had a pride, and they never complained about the situation. They just kept going, and their faith is what carried them through. But our first number will be called Homeland. We're going to be doing African dance, and it's going to transfer into more of a fine arts, lyrical, modern dance as we progress. But it's going to tell the story of how basically how they tried to rip our dignity from us, but at the end of the day, we are still queens and kings. And story form, and of course, in movement form, it'll be showcasing that. I'm excited, and I can't talk enough about it. I can't talk
Well,
enough
I
about
do,
it.
I'm going to push back a little bit about that they didn't complain, because I imagine that was part of the struggle, that, maybe not being either allowed to at the, allowed to vocalize your, it was a struggle with maybe not being allowed to vocalize that complaint. I imagine that took a toll, because that internal depression and oppression
Yeah,
really
yeah,
did probably take a toll. So I just can't imagine, even in your choreography, that you bring those emotions to life,
you
all of those different
already know.
emotions to life. Yeah, yeah.
The emotions behind this concert, I'm gonna tell you right now, bring your tissues. Bring your tissues. But you're gonna be crying happy tears, because we made it through. It's still a struggle to this day, but just to honor your ancestors and say, look how they paved the way for us.
Yeah.
You know, you should wake up in the morning proud. I'm hoping that when people leave the show, that they leave proud to be an African American, because that's what I want. You have nothing to be ashamed of, because our ancestors have carried the way, so paved the way, so we can be here. And that's what I'm hoping, that it taps into a little bit of sadness, and then when you leave there, you leave with pride.
Well, I think I'm glad you said that, that you can really get the full range of emotions in this. And I think from, what I've experienced with your pieces, with your performance pieces, that you really do this full range of emotions, because people are standing and clapping, and people are silent because they're so absorbed in it. And so I think that that's one of the things I appreciate about your choreography, that it's not just a sort of literal interpretation of of a
Mm-hmm.
song or something like that, that you really do use all of the senses. I don't know, you hadn't gotten to smell-o-vision yet, but I'm sure you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be
Maybe I'm
able
bring
to
some perfume oil.
burn some sage or get
Yeah,
some frankincense in there
might as
to
well.
bring to bring something. So let's talk about you. How did you come about choreographing movement?
I started out at 12, just dancing at Episcopal School of Ballet. I started there, and then, of course, my pastor, Michael J. Johnson, my mom came to him, and they wanted to start doing something with the youth. And mom was like, well, let's try to do dance. You know, dance was new then, so we started a little praise dance group. But as it grew, every church had one, and I was still doing musical theater at Pisco Little Theater. So that's where the dramatic drama comes from. But I always did shows at Pisco Little Theater, and I did shows at, they have a summer program at Pisco State College that I used to do too in high school. And then as I became a young adult, I would take everything that I learned from Pisco Little Theater, because I've done a few, like 7 shows there. I've
Oh,
done
wow.
Ragtime, just a lot of shows there. Everything I would learn, I would put into praise dancing, because I would think, hey, these musicals, they're really getting people focused. Why can't we put some of these movements in praise dancing? And that way, it's like a living sermon. And some people don't get the sermon. Sometimes they don't connect with the sermon. Sometimes people don't even really connect to the songs that you sing, but they may
Wow.
connect to dancing. So that's why I started putting in more drama into the praise dancing, and started to see how they choreographed. Well, I always watched musicals, so I love West Side Story, Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Oh, yeah.
I love Oklahoma. I love King and I. Like, I was raised on that type of environment, just music everywhere. So, as a person in church, and of course, I have ADHD, so if I'm in church myself, I want to make sure you're going to grab my attention, And there's people
Oh,
there that, sometimes church can be like, you know, not for
yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
and you want to make sure you reach everyone. So I
Well, and
want
I
to.
think that what you're talking about for me is that the teachers always say that people learn in different ways. So either by seeing or doing or hearing. So
Mhm.
what your choreography does is capture the essence of the spiritual experience in all three of them, because you encourage people to move or
Yeah,
whatever too. You're like, yeah, however you want to.
yeah. I try for
Yeah.
people that are like me, because when I'm in church, sometimes I find, even though I'm an elder, but now I'm not elder, but still I'm older. I find myself, sometimes like, okay. And I was like, okay. So praise dancing, what I try to do with my praise dancing, I try to make sure it matches. If I am going to be on program with the pastor or the choir, I try to make sure it matches, so that way it doesn't get missed. Because
Yeah.
sometimes it can be missed. We want to make sure that we're reaching everybody, not just somebody. So my approach is to try to reach people that may not be able to be reached by word and song.
Yeah, yeah, I'd
Mhm.
like that. So if you're just joining us, we are talking to, I am talking to Fallon Earlington, the choreographer for Soulful Movement, and there's a special performance coming up this Saturday, February Uh-oh, Sunday, February 22nd. About to forget my calendar here. February
It's
22nd
okay.
at 6 o'clock. Doors open at 6 o'clock. The performance starts at 6:30. And listen, you do not want to miss this. So get there at 5:59. Get ready to celebrate Black History Month. It's going to be at Woodland Heights Community Center, and we'll share that flyer with you, and on all the social medias we'll have the flyer up, and you can connect with Fallon on social media as well. So make sure that you get out there on this Saturday, February 22nd, right here in Pensacola. February 22nd. The performance begins at 6:30. The doors open at 6 o'clock. This is one that you do not want to miss in celebration of Black History Month. And everybody is invited to come. It's, as she said, it's multi-generational as
Yes.
well. So I want to make sure that we give a little teaser. That we give
Yes.
let's give them a little teaser of what they're going to see with your incredible dancers. And we'll come back and talk about them in a second. Wow. I am amazed. The one thing that really invokes what you're saying is your costuming. So I already see what you're talking about when you're saying that you're talking about this enslavement period. So you're already putting us visually in a mind of this time period with your costuming. Yeah, tell me about that decision.
Well, I always think that you should dress the part. Like, I mean, me personally, I that's just it helps people understand what's really going on. Um, I think it's no better way to tell our story than to actually dress like the characters. Sure that got the concept dance, and I also do lyrical. So I try to make sure that the lyrical is more on the lines of something you would see at a theater. So therefore,
Yeah, yeah.
it's received in that way. you know. And I'm telling you, I brought all my bags out the hat. I'm not. You just gotta come to see. You just gotta come to see it
It's
this
so
way.
much you reversed it. You didn't bring the hats out the bag. You brought the bags out the hat. So
Literally, literally. You, if you want the bags
it's
to go
full
back to the hat, you need to come.
of.
Please come. I'm telling you, I got the hags, the bags, and the purses and the shoes.
Well, you already see just from listening that this performance this Saturday is going to be one that you do not want to miss. If you're a fan of modern dance, ballet dance, jazz dance, interpretive dance, secular dance, spiritual dance, liturgical dance, you do not want to miss it. If you're a fan of history, you do not want to miss it. This is a performance for everybody. It's this Saturday, February 22nd at the Woodland Heights Community Center right in Pensacola. Get there early. It starts at 6:30, but you want to get there early. So Fallon, thank you so much for coming on to WBQP TV 12 Praise TV. Thank you so much for
I love
for
you
coming
guys so
on and for
much.
sharing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. This is a really important part of our history. We've seen so many amazing artists, and so I'm so grateful that you are not putting your talents up under a rock, that you are sharing your talent. So thank you. Any final words before we close out?
Thank you. Come anything else because y'all have to after the show. That's how excited that I am. I'm so excited. Like, just come. I can't
Well,
wait.
good. Come and catch the excitement. I'm Robin Richard, and for WBQP TV, 12 Praise TV. We'll see you next time. Thank y'all, and good night, or good morning, or good afternoon. Bye.
Bye.